Evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor here. So good to be with you this evening. We are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And we call this place Free because all the things that set us free, grace, compassion, love, forgiveness, these are the things that are so freely given by God. They're the things that set us free. So we're glad you're here. Those of you watching online, tuning in from YouTube or Facebook or the website, we're glad you're here. Those of you in the house, we're glad you're here too. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Couple of things you might want to know about. Do we have something for the screen? Yeah, oh, we do. Yeah, so y'all, we're in the middle of this series called Deep Clean. And we have talked about shame. We've talked about who God is. We've talked about healing. And this week, we're going to face our fear. We are going to work through some fears together. So this is going to be good. I'm glad you're joining us for this. It's an important discussion. Sierra Kowalowski is in the house. And she's our guest storyteller. So glad she's here. Y'all are going to hear more from her in just a bit. She's the loved one of, she's in that category, that second category, loved one of the addict. And I can't wait for y'all to hear some of her story around fear and how we're going to deal with some of these fears in a healthy way. So if you're the loved ones, I want you to tune in tonight. Stick around. We need y'all here. You're an important part of this conversation. Something else y'all need to know about. There's a one-day experience coming up with Bobby D'Addario. This is on May 16th. It's a Sunday, and it is Sunday is the time on that brochure. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, it's on there. I'm just missing it. It's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Bobby is part of this community. She's also the owner of My Soul Works, certified wellness coach, and author of Mirror, Mirror in the Trash. This one-day experience is for you ladies 18 and up. You are going to be talking about things like body image and healthy relationships and spirituality, and it's going to be really good. And Bobby's got some really cool content planned for you. Wagon Coffee is sponsoring this event, so they're providing lunch, and coffee is going to be served throughout the day. So come hang out with some other ladies and get your, get your fill of meaningful stuff on. How's that? By the way, this event is free. But do shoot Bobby an email. Tam, can you put her email in the comments right now? If you want to go, shoot Bobby an email so she can get a number of people who are coming. All right, y'all. Is that all we have for? Yes. So Danny, I love that Danny reminds me about this because this is probably the most important part of our community, and it's something I love about this community. We can joke around about it, but it's actually a very serious thing. And that is the thing we don't do here, because when you go out there, you get plenty of this, and it can knock you down and kick you down and keep you down, but we don't do it here. So if you're watching, if you're in your living room right now or your sober living house, you're in a group up in Washington or down in Florida or Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, wherever you are. I know there's people from all over the country, and some of you are tuning in now, some of you later in the week. But on three, I want you to say with this community here what we don't do. One, on three. Come on, Sam. One, and you got to say the whole phrase, not just the one word. One, two. Let's try it again. Let's just try this. A big deep breath. Sometimes we got to do that in this community. All right, and I want y'all to shout it with me. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. All right, y'all, on that note, we are going to celebrate together. Man, what kind of group is this where someone just shouts out shame? Nah, I love y'all. All right, we're going to celebrate together because it's how we start this community. We start with celebrations. My boy Matt in the back. We start with celebrating. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We don't ignore the heartaches, the burdens that we carry. But what we do in this community is we save it for the end. We start with celebrating. We remember the good stuff. We offer up gratitude. So I want y'all to take a couple of minutes and put them in the comments if you're online with us tonight. Put them in the Facebook comments or the YouTube comments. And if you're new with us, Yeah, it can feel a bit awkward because you're getting vulnerable, but let people in on your celebrating because 1,000 people will be joining you this week and celebrating with you. And we believe that God always joins with us in the celebrations. So get vulnerable with people, even if it feels a little creepy. Step into the creepiness and put in your celebration because we want to know the good stuff. And if you're here in the house tonight, sorry, I should step back in the camera. If you're here in the house tonight, we will celebrate together while they're doing their thing online. So take a couple minutes. We'll be right back. Give us sobriety anniversaries, birthdays, babies being born, babies on their way, new jobs, the new thing happening in life. We want all the good stuff, so we'll come back in just a minute.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive, and I soar. Still I run towards the wind and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 Oh, wake up heart and wake up mind, and see the world is yours to find. And with every passing day there's more, calling you out to explore. Get up and go. There is joy found in the race, and I feel it in the place where I'm free. And I simply can't deny it, that I feel adventure calling out to me. Yeah, we are all looking for adventure. 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 We are all looking for And I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. Living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. I'm living free.
All right, y'all, you just missed some good celebrating here in the house. So I don't know what y'all got online, but it's going to be good. Should I just mention what we have here? I mean,
Yeah.
so we have a back row all the way in the back, and we had 18 months, 5 months, 5 months, 30 days, all sitting next to each other. So if you want to get sober, the back row is the place to hang out.
That's good.
And we had birthdays in the house. We've got all kinds of good stuff here. So fun to celebrate with you. Let's do it with our online people,
Yeah,
shall
good
we?
deal. Hey, Rachel. She says, I'm grateful to be finishing my second semester of my human service degree and celebrating 1 year out of prison. Sober and free by God's grace.
All right, Rachel.
Heck yeah, Rachel.
Celebrating that with you. By the way, if you're new to this community, this is Tammy Canaday, my lovely bride who joins up here every week. Thank you for being here. All right. Danny Colella, our digital content director, says celebrating Shirley getting her first pop-up party for her earring business
Yeah,
this
Shirley.
week. All right, Shirley.
That's exciting.
Is Shirley on here tonight? Is she on? All right. We'll celebrate with her if she jumps on.
my goodness. Here we go, Lindsay. Lindsay says, I will celebrate in person next week. And our family is growing. The Rainwaters are having baby number 3, and it's a baby girl coming in October. She's finally starting to feel better. She's in bed with COVID. Yeah. But we are exciting baby number 3, and it's a girl, and they have 2 boys, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, y'all need a girl up in there. You think they're going to name her Tammy? I don't. We'll see. We'll see. Congratulations, Rainwaters. Miss y'all here. They're usually sitting right here doing coffee and stuff. So miss y'all. Love y'all. Lance Willoughby
Hey, Lance.
says it's good to visit with my estranged brother in Kansas last week. Yes, he made the long drive down I-70. We'll celebrate that with you, Lance. Joining
Have some
family.
coffee flowing to keep you going. Mm-hmm. Kansas. Hey, Molly Ann. She says, I'm becoming a deaconess on Monday. Yeah.
Yes. So for those of you that don't know, Molly has been going through the ordination process in United Methodist Church, and she's becoming there's elders and deacons and deaconesses. Deaconesses, is that the right word? She's becoming the deaconess. So congratulations, Molly. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's do one more, shall we? 1 or 2 more? Let's do 2 more.
Okay.
Oh, this is mine. Lauren Nelson says, celebrating my younger sister's new business just launched today. Big stuff. So proud of her.
Oh.
Lauren, we're celebrating that with you. Congratulations,
They're
sister.
not in the house, are they? Am I missing Lauren?
No, they just texted
Okay.
they couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
So we'll see them tomorrow, I'm sure.
Perfect.
At the
Yes,
softball game.
David, he says, my daughter has chosen to go to Rutgers University in the fall.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm not messing around. Big decisions. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining me, Tammy. We'll see you back up here in just a little bit. So, as I said, tonight is this topic of fear, facing your fears. So here's how we're going to start. Derek, y'all know Derek. Derek, come on up here, brother. Derek, man, you know he's a 12-stepper. He's been working steps, over a year sober now. He shared his story recently. He's also helping lead this book study that we're doing, Tattoos on the Heart. But Derek wrote a letter to fear while you were taking some fear inventory. So what was this, a year ago? 6 months ago?
I was 3 months old.
Oh, we need a mic.
I don't want to yell. You guys usually get mad at me because I talk
We do get mad at you.
so shame me. So it was I was about 3 months sober when I just finished my 4th and 5th step, and I had my first spiritual awakening, and now I'm facing my defects of character, my fear. And as I went through the steps, every step I had, I wrote a letter to each aspect of what I understood it to become and how I understood it now. So that's kind of what happened. That's kind of how my letter of my addiction came about.
So let's hear letter to fear. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Dear Fear, what is fearless? What is it to be courageous? Is there such a thing as fearless? I don't think so. My life, I've been a coward. I've been selfish and full of hate because I fear. I fear what I don't understand. I judge what I don't know. And I sarcastically take others' pains to make them fear me. I feel fear some kind of respect, but in my addiction, I'm a villainous coward. I am no hero, and I am less than a man. I objectify women. I think money is a deity. Others' weakness is a ticket to me being happy. I am no God. I am no higher power. Definitely not the God. So how could I be fearless? How could I have the courage to be kind, loving, to have the power to do the next right thing? My soul is tortured. It is in pain and crying in the insanity of me thinking I can be the center of the universe. I can never be fearless. It isn't possible, but I can have the courage to walk through fear. I prayed to God for the first time in a long time last night, and as tears rolled down my face, I had joy in my heart and courage in my soul, and my being sparked to life. I wasn't asking for money, selfish things, or for him to give me a good life. I was asking him to give me the courage to walk through fear, to face my shame and have forgiveness in my heart, to take the guilt and shame of my past so I could give and live in the here and now. I asked for the patience and strength to hear others, so I may let God take the time to use me as a voice to bring them closer to him, because God is in all of us, everywhere, all things. I asked him to put the armor of God on me, not so I could be fearless, but so I could be courageous in the fear that consumes this world, that consumes me and my addiction. Because in my addiction, I am a coward, even to save myself. So how could I help save another, to be kind or show love? But when I let God give me the courage to face my addiction, I walk through fear, face judgment, hate, anger, but most of all, that I have the power through God to reach my hand out and pick another up, to help them walk through fear until they are ready to be brave and courageous to follow something more than themselves. We are alone because in the end, we choose to be in our addiction. We choose selfishness over selflessness, willfulness over willingness, false pride over contentment, jealousy over trust, and most of all, fear over love. This is what I am when I choose my addiction over being powerless and letting God have it. You never lose your worth, but without God, you never see the true path to your potential, our true capacity to be good, kind, and loving. So yes, I talked to God the other night, and I cried, not because of shame and guilt, because I finally had the courage to walk through fear with his guidance, his love, that I could do the next right thing, that I could love who I was again, and my soul could rejoice and sing in my spiritual awakening. So now with God on my side, I could have the courage to bring someone like me closer to him and let me walk through fear, help them walk through fear. And to me, nothing's ever brought me more love, joy, and compassion in my life. God is not fear. He is only compassion. He is love. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. So tonight, let's talk about some fear, shall we? Here's a little 10-second video to get us started.
We keep playing with fire, knowing it's a dangerous game. So we keep playing with fire.
That said part 3, but we're actually on part 4. Part 3 was last week, why healing is necessary. This is part 4, facing your fears. So here's the deal, y'all. Tuesday night, I was at home and I was sitting in my living room and I was reading through some of the different scriptures on fear. And did y'all know this? Some people say that, I haven't confirmed it, but I believe it's mostly true. Some people say that the phrase fear not or do not be afraid is mentioned 365 times in the scriptures, the Old and New Testament. And many will be quick to tell you that that is a reminder for every single day of the year for you not to be afraid. So here's the deal. I'm sitting in my living room, literally reading through some of these scriptures, and I get 2 phone calls back to back. The first was from a mom, and she was headed up to the hospital to be with her son, her youngest son, who is battling depression and battling suicidal thoughts. And I hung up with her, and right after that, the phone rings again, and it was from another mom, and she was drunk again. And she can't figure out how to get and stay sober, and I could hear her children, her young children, playing in the background. And, you know, the scriptures and other wisdom traditions and other sacred texts, they teach us over and over and over again to not be afraid. But maybe the problem is you're sitting here today and you are so full of fear. You are overcome with being afraid. And man, the scriptures, it's interesting because, see, if you read through some of the, in the scriptures all over, there's these stories about angels appearing to people. They're called angel appearances. And when angels appear to people, they always say the same thing. They start with the same sentence, every single one of them, because it's like when they went to angel school, the trainer told them, listen, when you appear to human beings, they're going to be a little creeped out and things are going to get a bit dicey. And so you need to remind them that it's okay not to be afraid. So they all came up with the same phrase together, and they say it at the beginning of every appearance. They say what? Do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Joseph, something big is about to happen. You're going to have a baby boy that's born. I know you don't know exactly how it happened. Yes, Mary is the mother. I know you don't know it all, but this is a big deal. He's a big deal. But don't be afraid. Mary, Sister Mary, don't be afraid. You're carrying in your body a big deal. This is going to be like Savior of the world stuff, but don't be afraid. I know you don't understand it all. Don't be afraid. And what happens right after Jesus is born? You all remember this? An angel appears in the fields to the shepherds at night. And what do they say? Yo, don't be afraid. Something big is happening. It's like earth-shattering. You need to get your butts to Bethlehem, but don't be afraid. Man, the scriptures pick the most inconvenient times to tell people not to be afraid. It's like the times when we should be the most afraid. You know, there's this story in the book of Joshua. Joshua is the Old Testament. Some of you know the backstory to Joshua. See, the Israelites, they were taken into captivity in Egypt. They were living in slavery under the ruling of Pharaoh. And God says to Moses, this leader, I want you to go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And after some hesitancy, Moses goes into Egypt and says to Pharaoh, you got to let my people go. A lot of things happen. Finally, Pharaoh says, fine, I'll let the people go. And Moses is to lead them out of Egypt and into this new land called the Promised Land. But see, they spend many, many years and they lost their way. They lost the plot to their story and they're wandering around in the wilderness. Things aren't going well. People are dying. They're frustrated. Moses dies and a new leader rises up and his name is Joshua. God comes to Joshua and says, my boy, here's what we're going to do. We are going to go into this new land. And listen, when we get there, things are going to get a bit dicey. Like you're going to be in some battles because you've got some enemies. And then he says this to Joshua in the very first chapter, verse 9. We'll throw it on the screen for you. Joshua, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. And can you imagine Joshua's response here? Like, Lord, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but things aren't exactly going well. Our people were not exactly coming into this new land on a winning streak. Our people are dying. They're frustrated. They're tired. They're hungry. They're sick. Don't be afraid. And maybe you're sitting here tonight and it feels like you are getting ready to go into battle and you keep hearing this still small voice saying to you, don't be afraid. Or maybe it feels like you're in the midst of battle right now with something in your life and you're hearing this still small voice. You can't make sense of it, but it's saying, don't be afraid. And here's the deal. God doesn't say, don't feel afraid. God says, don't be afraid. And there's a difference, isn't there? Because feelings, you can feel afraid. Feelings are just feelings. They're there. Deal with them. Feel them. Let them in. But being is different, isn't it? Being is when that feeling actually becomes you and it determines your next steps and it determines how you are going to live. God doesn't say don't feel afraid. God says don't be afraid. And you know what else God says? Because see, I only read the first half of that verse. God says don't lose hope. Joshua, don't lose hope. Wherever you go, I am going with you. Here's how he says it. Throw up that second piece, Drew. Do not be discouraged. In other words, don't lose hope, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Now here's the deal. The problem with fear, the problem isn't fear, right? The problem is when we get stuck in fear. The problem is when I am being afraid, not when I feel afraid. The problem is when I'm overcome with fear. And I don't know about y'all, but I was able to, in my life, boil it down to 3 reactions that Ryan has when Ryan gets stuck in fear. I had a big list, but I had to boil it down to 3. Y'all could probably add to this list. In fact, I'll encourage you, especially if you're online, drop in the list how you react, not when you're feeling afraid, but when you're being afraid. Here's the first thing I do. The first thing I do is I tell myself there's no hope and I should run the other way. The second thing I do when I'm stuck in fear is I tell myself I'm in this alone. No one's with me and God's not with me either. And you know what happens with the third thing? Because it all leads to Ryan tightening his grip and becoming an absolute control freak. Yeah, it's true. We laugh because it's true, right? Come on, y'all are with me? You get controlling? No, never. No, not me. Never control the situation. You know, just this week, Tammy and I, we were dealing with some hard things with our 10-year-old daughter, Selah. Watching her struggle a little bit. Watching her undergoing a little bit of suffering. And y'all know how it is, for those of you parents in the room, you know how it is to watch your babies struggle. When they struggle, you struggle. When their hearts ache, your heart aches a bit. And so we go to bed that night, and Ryan's in a little bit of fear. What does fear say that night? Oh, it's really easy. Tammy's fast asleep. Ryan comes up with this great idea, because Ryan gets really great ideas at midnight when he's by himself and can't sleep. I know exactly what we're going to do. And I'll tell Tammy in the morning. I'll wait. In the morning, I'll tell her that we're going to pull Selah out of school. We're going to sell the house. And by the way, we're leaving free. We're not doing free anymore. And we're going to go and live on this secluded island where we can protect all of our babies and nothing from the outside is going to be able to touch them. And then when they grow up, we might come back. And y'all, I laugh, but at the time it was perfectly reasonable to have this unreasonable reaction. Fear always leads to me, if I'm stuck in it, I'm unreasonable. And by the way, while we're talking about daughters and fears, you know that same little girl who's now 10 years old. I will never forget, she's our first child, by the way. I'll never forget being in the hospital the day she was born. Man, when the doctors handed her to me, I was proud. There was a part of me that was so excited. And I remember looking at her hands and looking at her feet. And then I looked into her eyes and I was so scared. I mean, damn, I was scared. And I told myself, I cannot be a pops to her. I'm not qualified for this. I'm going to screw the whole thing up. I cannot be her father. It's going to make me look bad, and then I'll screw her over. Ryan knows how to deal with that. Those kinds of fears, you know what I do with? Control the situation. So I leave the hospital, and I go to the liquor store, and I stock up on whiskey, and then I come back, and I proceed to get drunk in the hospital room and pass out. I lived that way for 2.5 more years. Didn't get sober until she was 2.5 years old. Being afraid, it's when I tighten my grip. I tell myself I'm alone anyways. There's no hope. I might as well turn and go the other way. Tighten the grip and control the situation. How do you control it? Sometimes you just numb out. Y'all know recently I took a service position in a 12-step group, and it's a new service position for me. And early on in the service position, I made some mistakes, and those mistakes were significant enough that they got pointed out to me. And sometimes, if you're like me, when those mistakes get pointed out to you, well, what do you tell yourself? This is going to make me look bad. I don't like this. There's no hope here, so I'm going to run the other way. What do I say? Screw y'all, I'll just go and do my own thing. I'm alone anyways. You guys don't understand. There's no hope. Truck it. I'll go the other way. Being afraid. What do? Tighten my grip and control the situation. If I don't numb out, I can peace out. You ever done that? I don't want to look bad. They may not think I'm competent enough. They may not like me. I might not look like I know what I'm doing. And y'all know, of course, if you're in recovery, you know that fear doesn't always have the final word, does it? Thanks be to God. I remember still when I pulled up to that 12-step meeting a few moons ago, and I'm sitting in my Toyota truck, and I'm shaking, and I'm gripping the steering wheel, holding on tight, and I'm pleading with God, God, please don't. There's got to be a way out of this. There's got to be a better way than to go in there with them, those screwed up people. They ain't even my people. Maybe I can go home one more time and try to convince Tammy that this time I really get it. This time I have mustered up enough self-discipline to not pick up another drink. Yeah, thumbs up, right? Let me know how that works out. Yeah, thank God I walked into the meeting that day, because on that day it set me on this path where I discovered hope, where I discovered I wasn't alone, that you all were my comrades in the journey. You were going to battle with me. God was going into the battle with me. I wasn't alone. Fear will always try to convince you that you're alone. Screw it, go the other way. You're alone anyway. And let's just get honest with fear for just a moment. Because the problem isn't fear, is it? Fear is a good thing. Fear is good. The problem is when I'm consumed with fear, when I'm overcome with it. The problem isn't feeling afraid. The problem is being afraid. Fear is good. If a mountain lion were to come charging through the door right now, well, all of a sudden fear is a good thing, isn't it? It might be your best friend in that moment because it might save your life. If you are new in sobriety tonight, back row folks, if you walk out of here and walk into the Applebee's, do people even go to Applebee's anymore? If you go to Applebee's or Chili's, wherever y'all go, and you see your favorite liquors up there, that's what I used to drink, and I used to mix it with this, and you begin to fantasize. Well, all of a sudden, fear might be your best friend because fear might save your life. The people that try to come alongside of you and say, "Oh man, don't give in to your fear. You got this. Just say no to fear. Oh, you don't have to acknowledge that stuff. You keep on going." Oh, come on. I mean, come on. Who are you trying to impress? And I know if you were a 90s kid like me, you had the no fear t-shirts. You remember those? No fear. I'm the big dog on the porch. Come on. That is a bunch of BS. No, what do you do with fear? You acknowledge it. You've got fear. I've got fears. What do? We acknowledge it. We get honest with it. In my experience, when we name it and acknowledge it, it has a way of exposing it so that it no longer consumes you. You are no longer overcome with it. My brothers and sisters, don't leave fear behind. You need fear. You know, one of my favorite authors, her name is Liz Gilbert. Anyone heard of Liz Gilbert? Mm-hmm. She wrote a book called Eat, Pray, Love, and then right after that book, she wrote a book called Big Magic. And in Big Magic, she talks about fear and how fear is like a family member. So you got to take fear on the road trip with you. But here's what she says you say to fear on the road trip. We'll throw it on the screen for you. Fear, you're allowed to have a seat and you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. You're not allowed to touch the road maps or suggest detours. You are not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you're not even allowed to touch the radio, but above all else, you are absolutely forbidden to drive. Y'all see, we need fear. Fear isn't the problem. It's the problem of fear driving. So listen, if you are stuck in fear right now, if you are going through something in your life and it's just got you overcome with fear, maybe you don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know what that son or daughter is out doing. You don't know what the spouse is out doing. You don't know if you're going to be sober tomorrow yourself. If you've got some fear going on, let me make 3 suggestions. 3 things that have helped me along the way. Very simple things. The first is Pause. Oh, come on, Pastor. It just seems overly simplistic. I've got real fears going on. These are real. What do you mean just pause? Yeah, pause. Take a big, deep breath. Yeah. Invite the God of the universe in. For some of you, you're not used to that. You're just used to reacting into fear. And your reactions keep getting you in trouble. They keep bringing on more chaos. Take a big, deep breath and pause. Invite the God of the universe in. Pausing can be a spiritual experience. Second thing, put your fears on paper. Some of y'all are going to be amazed what happens when you get what's in here swirling around in here, and you actually get a pen and paper and you write those things down, and then you look at it. It has a way of making sense that, oh, all this stuff is no longer in here. It's no longer swirling around. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 68 put it this way. I find it tremendously helpful. It's just a few lines. I want to read it with you. It says, we reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper. Even though we had no resentment connection with them, we asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. We asked God to remove our fear and direct our attention to what God would have us be. Not what God would have us feel, but what God would have us be. At once we commenced to outgrow fear. My brothers and sisters, how do we outgrow fear? You name it. You put it on paper. You remind fear of its place. Fear, you have a place, but today you ain't driving. You ain't driving on the road trip. In fact, you ain't even touching the radio. You don't get to control the temperature. Number 3, and final. Talk to your fears. Yeah, verbally talk to your fears. Because here's the deal with your fears. They usually aren't very interesting. Remember back in the day when your CD, it would get stuck and it would just repeat the same thing, and someone would have to go over to the what were they called, the little things we carried around? Yeah, except the CD player, the Walkmans with the CDs though. And you'd have to hit it. Remember that? And that would get it to go. That's what we got to do with our fears sometimes. Your fears are boring. They are stuck on repeat. And they keep saying the same thing. You are not good enough for this. You cannot do this. Everything could fall apart. You could look stupid if you try this thing. You could lose money at this. I mean, fear is absolutely boring. And the thing about fear is, he thinks he's original. He thinks he's telling you something new. It is very rarely anything new. One of my favorite spiritual teachers, he says, what do you say to fear? You say it with a smirk. I know. Now, Ryan, don't make amends to that person. If you make amends to them, I mean, you haven't even liked them. Things have gone chaotic and awry, and things may further fall apart. You don't know how this thing is going to turn out. I know. No, Ryan, don't start free. You're comfortable where you are. You've got this thing going. Why would you step into this new thing? The whole thing could fall apart. You don't even know if it's going to work. You don't know if the thing's going to launch. I know. No, Ryan, don't get vulnerable with people. You know how people are. You know they can take your words and later use them as knives against you. Don't get vulnerable with them. You know how they are. I know. You see, when you say I know, it's the judo move on fear. Because fear, you're saying, I know. And fear saying, no, I've got something new to tell you. No, I know. I know you've already told me all that. I've already thought about all those things. I've already considered them, and I'm still taking a step to move forward. And yes, it's risky. That's the way life is. Life is risky. Anytime you move forward, you are taking a risk. Anytime you step into fear, you're taking a risk. My brothers and sisters, don't ignore your fears. Go deeper into them. You want to help people with their fears? Don't lead them away from fear. Take them deeper into their fears. Acknowledge them, name them, face them, pause, write them, talk to them. My brothers and sisters, you can feel afraid, but do not be afraid. And there's a difference. And remember, God is going with you. So take just a minute and reflect. If you're with us online, you can jot some of these. We got 2 questions on the screen for you, and you can jot your responses down in the comments, let people in. If you're here and you want to take a moment to close your eyes and reflect, you can do that. Or if you want to put them in the comments either on Facebook or YouTube, you can do that as well. But here's 2 questions for you to reflect on fear in your life. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a moment to reflect. And as always, what fears do you need to name? You probably didn't get that done in 60 seconds. What keeps you from facing your fears? You probably didn't get that done in 60 seconds. That's why God put 7 days in a week, to give you time to reflect on the important things in life. All right, listen, y'all, we're going to keep reflecting on fears because I want y'all to hear from Sierra. She's our guest storyteller. She's in the house. Sierra was with us early on, way back in the day, like 2 years ago, when we did a panel discussion. Do you remember the name of this panel discussion?
Angel something?
No, that was when you were a storyteller. We did a really important panel discussion. We had 3 members. Lex, were you on that panel? You were on one of them. It may have been anyway, y'all, time just flies when you're having a good time and you forget all the good that's happened. Sierra was a member on this panel, and she has just has a really incredible way of articulating the depth of these themes that we talk about. And she is, again, I want to remind you, she's coming from the perspective of the loved one of an addict. Now, she's also got a story with her own recovery, and she could tell that story too. But I asked her to focus on being the loved one tonight, and that's what she's going to do. So I want you all to help me welcome my friend, Sierra. Man, that time sneaks up on us, doesn't it? Sierra, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being willing to come here again and join us and share with us. You told Oh, mic. Sierra needs a mic. Danny's got it. Thank you, Danny. Y'all might remember, for those of you that were here back in the early days, Sierra shared a story about a horse. And some of y'all still talk about that story to this day. In fact, I was telling someone you're coming, they said, "Oh, the horse lady?" So not like the most flattering nickname to be known as, but the horse lady. We'll come back to the horse story if we have time. But when Sierra and I met this week, I said, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about fear from an Al-Anon perspective or the loved one of an addict perspective? And your words were, What are they going to do next, and how is that gonna? We have kids here, so
me.
how's that gonna truck me? Um, loving a loved one who's addicted. That was the name of the panel. My wife just sent that to me. Thank you, Tammy. But what are they going to do next? Meaning the active addict or alcoholic, or who's ever whatever addiction. What are they going to do next, and how's that going to affect me negatively? So, can you talk to us a little bit about that kind of fear, what that looks like?
Yeah, it looks like panic.
Hey, you might want to hold the mic up.
It-
There you go.
It looks like panic. It feels horrifying, helpless, totally out of control. That's where we get our first step in Al-Anon, that we're powerless over other people and what they're going to do.
And for people who may not know, what is Al-Anon? For people tuning in, there's like, wait, what? I've heard that term, but what is it?
Yeah, Al-Anon is the program. It's sort of a sister program to AA. It's for the families and friends of the addicts. So really, some people in Al-Anon sometimes qualify for AA, but everybody, I say, in AA qualifies to be an Al-Anon because we were all, like me, I was born to, raised by, married and divorced from twice, dated, friends with, in recovery with alcoholics. I love all of you. So that puts me in Al-Anon, right? So everybody
Squarely.
Yes,
Yes.
squarely in the box. Yes, I earned my seat. So that's Al-Anon, and it's really not about bitching about what they did or what they're going to do, although that's where we come in a lot of the time because those are the really scary things. But it's, okay, I'm powerless over what they're going to do. Now what am I going to do? And I think so much of the time we are addicted to those people and what they're doing. We are as obsessed, we are as tied up with them as an addict is with their own drug. So, I say that I'm addicted to alcohol and alcoholics. I am.
You've got all sorts of problems.
I do. I am a complete disaster. And
I say that jokingly, of
Yeah, of
course, because
course.
if y'all
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know Sierra, she actually works this 12-step work. She's done the interior work, and I know it's not like a one and done, then we're done. You keep doing this work, and you've
Yeah.
been involved in it for many, many years. I think 16 years, you
Yeah,
said?
yeah.
So I say that with, we can own our
Yes,
messed upness,
we
right?
can own it, yeah.
That doesn't hurt your feelings when I say that.
No.
Okay, good. Just
No,
get
and
that out of the way.
Actually, when you were asking us just now what my fears are, that's one of them, is that I will somehow think that I've got this and I don't need to come to program anymore. I don't need to work a program. I don't need you guys in my life anymore, that I'm fine. I got this. And that's one of my biggest fears because
Yeah.
I have seen that kill people
Yeah, all the time.
all the time.
Speak to Sierra. You told me it was a funny story, and it was funny because it just made sense. But the time the smoke alarm went off in an Al-Anon
Oh.
group, and how because it's this idea that for the loved one, we have those good fears. Like fear is good.
Yeah.
Fear isn't the problem. It's when we're overcome with it. It's when we're stuck in being afraid. But how healthy fear, the good fear, is destroyed for the loved ones. Talk about that a little bit. And listen, for you all who are the loved ones of someone who's active in their addiction, I want you to hear this piece because I think it's so important, and how you described it was so helpful to me, being on the other side.
The
Go
smoke
ahead.
detector thing?
Yeah.
So there was I was listening to a speaker tape from a convention, and she said that she was doing some, meeting like this one time, and the smoke alarm went off in the room, and all the Al-Anons froze, and they knew, and she was like, then we could smell smoke, and they're all just still sitting there, and I had to say, the fire alarm's going off. It smells like smoke. We probably need to leave the room. and the funny thing about that is that that happens, I think, because the disease of alcoholism, addiction, whatever your poison is, it wants to override that fear. It wants to distort it so completely that you're not afraid of alcohol poisoning. You're not afraid of overdosing. You're not afraid of going off the cliff. Like, in the big book, Lois and Bill are driving around the country in a motorcycle, and Bill's off the cliff at this point, right? Like he's driving drunk through the cornfields and whatever he's doing, right? And Lois is me, running along beside the sidecar, and if it tries to leave without her, she runs and jumps in it, right? Like that's what I do. I am the one who will stick with the alcoholic no matter what it means to me, no matter how bizarre, how ridiculous, how unsafe it is. My fear has been completely distorted so that now I don't see, oh, this is really a bad idea. And this is, the fire is happening, and I need to just pretend it's not happening, right? That's what we do in Al-Anon. I need to pretend the fire is not happening, because if it's happening, I got to do something about it.
And for a
And
lot of
that's really
people, it's
scary.
been that training for it didn't just
Since
happen
birth.
overnight. It's since birth.
Yeah.
And talk about that a little bit. So you grew up around addiction.
Yeah.
You had the fear of people finding out. And I think it's so important to talk about because, again, for me as a recovering alcoholic, I had the fear of people finding out. I mean, it caused tons of shame in me and fear. And I said this last week, I didn't understand the other side until my mom explained to me, hey, do you know what it's like to admit both my boys struggle with it? One died from it, and now the other one's a pastor, and he's an alcoholic. So you had to, the fear of admitting it, and you said things like you had to ask friends growing up, hey, yeah, I want you to come over, but are you cool if my mom smokes pot all day? And the fear of people finding out about your marriage because you were the fun couple, and you wanted to look like you were the fun couple, and you had it together, and what if they find out we're really this big hot mess, and we're not happy, and we're miserable? Talk about the fear of people finding out.
Well, yeah, because you want to. I think for me, I settled that issue early on in life because my mom was an alcoholic, like the kind who goes to jail and loses her driver's license, the alcoholic bus pass. You know, she's not the sweet mom driving me to school and dropping me off. She's this hungover on the couch, just got in 20 minutes ago when I'm on my way to work to school.
There's heads in
right?
here that are shaking.
Yeah,
Like people
right?
are like, yeah, I know exactly what that's like.
Yeah.
If you're
So-
online, you can't see it, but it's happening.
Yeah. So I learned that this is how it is. I'm a child, totally helpless in this situation. So if I want to get along, I have to pretend my mom is fine, right? That everything's fine. That she, I need to go along to get along, right? So then I need to have friends. So before I ask my friends in the house, I need to learn how to pick who I need to, before they ever get to the house. In the classroom, I need to pick who's going to be okay with this lifestyle and who's not, which already sends you down a path of picking addicts, right? So that, or people who are familiar with that. So when I was growing up, my best friend for years, her dad was one of the top drug dealers in Colorado and made the front page when we were in high school because he was killed by the French mafia, and it was like a very flashy story and whatever. And my parents were like, oh, I thought you said he was a drug dealer. I mean, an art dealer. And I was like, art, drugs, whatever. But
Same thing.
so I learned really early to accommodate the disease
Yeah.
and hide what I needed to hide and tell who I needed to hide it from and who I could be open with. And so that just kept pushing me into this world of people I could be open with. So by the time I was married, we didn't have to hide it. Everybody was worse off than I was. So
Yeah.
that's a great place to be when
Good
you're
feeling,
not
isn't it?
Yeah.
When you can look down on others.
No, when you're the least fucked up in the room, it's great. You're like, oh, I can have 5 more. No one cares.
So, and finally, Sierra. By the way, Sierra's not on. She's not on social media. So, if you have, why are you giving a thumbs up? Are we clapping for that? Have you heard of Facebook and YouTube and
That's
okay?
why I'm not on there yet. I like YouTube.
So if y'all have questions for Sierra, you can put them in the comments, and I will try to get them to her before the end of the night. I will try to get those questions to her. But if you have questions, I'm assuming you'd feel free to you would engage questions.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I want you to close with this. Tell us the walk through the fear of getting healthy, the fear of owning it, the fear of giving up the illusion of control because for so long you think you can control this thing and you become a control freak. What's the fear in getting healthy?
Losing everything as you know it. Right? I mean, when I I gave up drinking, I lost everybody that I had built my life with. And then when I got, so then I was alone. So then, I wasn't because I was in AA. But then I still was married to an alcoholic. And that was odd because he lived in New York and I lived here and we were pretending we were still happily married. And he was a drunk and I was sober. And but just everybody that I knew, I had to change all the ways I interacted with people. I had to stop all the people pleasing, which, by the way, makes you a fabulous liar. I mean, people pleasers are the worst liars there are. How are you? Oh, I'm fine. I'm dying inside. I'm dying. No, I'm fine. Everything's good. Just absolute terrible. So I had to relearn all of my coping mechanisms. I didn't know what a boundary was. What the hell is a boundary? Like, I'm not allowed to have boundaries. If I say no, the disease is going to attack me. The disease runs everything. So now I not only have to stand up to people, I have to stand up to the disease, right toe to toe, and go into battle and learn how he thinks. My grandfather was a POW in World War II, and he'd say, you always have to know how your enemy thinks and never get sidetracked by fear. That's how he stayed alive. Never get sidetracked by fear. You're going to feel it, but always keep your mind squarely on where you want to go, which for him was back here. He wasn't going to die on frickin' German soil, as he said. And that's how it was when I had to face recovery in both realms, both AA and Al-Anon. Like, I had to leave everything I knew behind, face the fears, and just put God in the middle, because the alcohol, the drugs, the men, the mom, the isms had been in the center for so long, controlling, driving the car. I had to put God in the driver's seat and the fears in the back and me next to God in the seat and stay there, which is scary to stay there.
Yeah.
It's unfamiliar territory. You don't know where you're going on this road trip.
Unfamiliar, and we have to have the tools to help us stay there. It's not because it's not a natural impulse to get there and stay there.
No.
It's constant work and doing it with others.
Yeah.
Doing it with community people. So I want to close with that. If you are watching right now, if you're in the room and a part of you has told yourself fear has crept in and you're the loved one of an addict, someone active in their addiction, you said, I'm alone, no one understands what I'm going through. I want you to hear tonight the voice of Sierra and so many other people in this community that are exactly where you have been, and they've been there. They're in it now, so you're not alone. You've got a whole community of people with you, but you have to reach out. Don't believe the lie that you're alone. You're not alone. They are with you. God is with you. Sierra, thank you so much for being. Were you going to say something? I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you all, because you guys always show up that when I show up, I'm not alone in the room.
Yeah.
And my life depends on that. My life depends on coming to meetings and meetings being there for me to come to. So I appreciate all of you and you for doing this. And thank you.
I love having you come here and share. I hope you come again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sierra. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, everybody, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we close things down here at Free. As we do with celebrating, we do it with heartaches. We carry burdens together because guess what? You're not alone. Some of you try to carry these heavy burdens by yourself and it doesn't work. Why? Because you weren't created to carry this stuff alone. So we do heartaches together. So I want you to take a couple of minutes, the same as we do with celebrations. Put your heartaches in the comments. If you're here in the house, we'll do our own thing together. You'll get to say what it is. And we do this so that we can carry each other, so that we can encourage each other, so that we can lift up each other through the week. And so that we can pray for one another because we believe in the power of prayer in this community. We have a prayer team. You're going to hear more about that in just a second, but we do this stuff together. You weren't created to carry this stuff alone. So again, I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, to get honest and get vulnerable. Put a phrase in the comments and we'll lift you up. We will pray for you. So take 2 minutes and then we'll come right back. Brother Matt in rehab. Yeah, we're going to lift him up. Tammy Canada is back in the house, joining me. Man, the coffee was extra good tonight.
Which one did you have?
All of them. and you're going to get the full repercussions of that about 3 o'clock in the morning because we're going to have some deep philosophical discussions. I'm going to have some more ideas, some great ideas.
I know how that goes,
We're going to be
yeah.
selling the house, moving away. All right, y'all. This is actually decaf. I switched to decaf about an hour ago. All right. Man, we have, well, let's stick with our online people for just a moment. We lifted up some heartaches here in this room, and man, just every week there's lots of, what I love about this community is lots of joy and pain. All right, go ahead.
Christy and Jen are joining us. Christy says prayers for Jen's older brother who is getting ready to face another major surgery on his leg. Safe travels for her mom as she goes down to take care of him. Prayers for them, Christy.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, Christy. Man, we've been following their journey on the Facebook too, haven't we? All their traveling and eating and us getting jealous. What else we got? Bobby. Hey, Bobby. So this is the one, Bobby, this is the Bobby who's leading the One Day Experience, May 16th. Prayers for my daughter and her marriage. All right, Bobby, we're going to pray for your daughter and her marriage. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I read this behind the scenes. Mike said, need prayers for my wife who got blood work back and has to see an oncologist. That's heavy.
Ooh, Mike, prayers for you, brother. Heavy stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. Julie, hey Julie, she says active shooter in Oneida Nation Casino in Wisconsin. Sorry to hear this, Julie. Man, it's I wish we could say that's like a big surprise, and so I haven't heard this news. It must be recent, brand new. Okay, prayers for a heavy situation right now in the Oneida Nation Casino in Wisconsin. Thank you for sharing that with us, Julie. Lifting them up, lifting you up.
It kind of just gets you, doesn't it? Like
Yeah,
shooting,
yeah.
it's like you got to pause and just go, yeah. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, pausing can be a spiritual experience.
Yeah. Hey, Rachel, she said, just hired a lawyer going through a custody case for my 8-year-old daughter, Riley.
Prayers for you, Rachel. Prayers. Thank you for sharing that with us. Heavy stuff. Lindsay says, Lindsay, you know what? We lifted you and Jeremy up during our time here. Saman lifted you up, so you're getting double whammied right now. Prayers that I make a full COVID recovery and get back to my life. Yes, Lindsay, we need you back to your life, so take time, rest, recover. We love y'all. We miss y'all, and we'll see you when you are healed. Healed.
Next week.
Healing. Next week, maybe.
Can I just say, I think
Yeah.
it's interesting that we say lifted you up.
Yeah? Why is that interesting?
I don't know. Like, maybe it's just interesting terminology. Like, we said a prayer for you, and we were thinking about you. I don't know. But sometimes I think back in our residue of words that we say things that people might go, what does that mean? So when we say lifted you up, it means we were thinking about you,
Praying for you. Lift. Yeah.
thinking about you. Yeah, in our thoughts. I don't know.
Yes, sometimes we got to explain what we're saying.
Yeah, I think that's
I
important.
get it. I get it. Religious residue.
Religious
I like it. I like it.
On that note, I'm out.
Religious residue. Thank you, Tammy. It's always good to have you up here. Y'all, listen, I know we're going a couple minutes over tonight, but I want you to hear from Chandra. Is Chandra here? Chandra's here. And I want to let you all know some information. Big announcement in the house. Jason has been leading our prayer team for the last long time. He's been a leader in this community for a long time. And Jason has decided to step down. He's tired. He wants to pass the baton. So Chandra said, I'll do it. I'll do it. We want this. So thank you, Jason, for all your service around here. Chandra, yeah. We can clap for that. He's a good dude. Chandra, will you just give us like the 60-second version? What is the prayer team and why we need to grow it?
Yes. So
Okay.
prayer team is basically, it's just a group of people that want to pray and love and connect with people in a practical way, showing kindness. And so that might look like if somebody's sick, we might be going to the hospital or sending them flowers, setting up meal trains, just kind of rallying around people. Anytime people post on Facebook or YouTube or send an email, we absolutely want to connect with you. So anytime anybody's putting something on there, we're going to hit you up and try to love on you and pray for you.
Yeah, not hit you, but just hit you up.
Yeah.
We're going to hit them.
Yeah. Same thing. And then, so this community is growing, and so the needs are growing, and so we would love to build this team and be able to just love on people with a full, just smother you. And so if any of that tugs on your heart and you love loving on people, then let Ryan or myself or Tammy, any of us know that you want to join the team, and we'll start loving and praying.
Yeah, loving and praying.
Loving and praying.
We got taglines. T-shirts are coming any day now. Thank you, Chandra, so much for stepping into this position. Appreciate you and your leadership. All right, y'all, I'm going to leave it with this. I won't tell the wagon story, but if you want to know the wagon story, you can go to the website and read why the wagon is a central image of this community. But I will tell you this. We have a giving box on this wagon. There's giving boxes scattered throughout here, the free premises. Seriously, hear me when I say this and hear it with all kinds of gratitude. Your generous giving helps sustain the mission here at Free. It helps us to move forward, to step into fears, to keep doing our thing as addicts, loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees, breaking the silence of addiction and creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. Now, if you don't give in person, and if you're part of this community, if you call this place home, we're really grateful that you give. As I said, it keeps us going. And there's 3 ways you can give online or not in person. The first way is to download the app. It's free, and it's called Free Spiritual Community. Go to the app, and you can give there on a regular basis or just one time, however you want to do it. No amount is too small or too big. Or go to the website freespiritualcommunity.com/give, and you can do it online that way. Or text the number on your screen, and it'll walk you through some instructions. Your generous giving helps sustain and keep the mission of Free thriving. So really, thank you, thank you, thank you. Every time we receive a check or an online donation, lots and lots of gratitude. So thank you all for keeping this train moving forward. Shall we go out with a prayer? I asked Drew tonight as we were getting tonight ready. I said, Drew, I give him my sermon notes. I said, what prayer shall we go out with tonight? And he says, we got to do the 7th step prayer, which is right behind me, by the way. So if you don't know the 7th step prayer, it'll be on your screen. It's also right behind me. And I encourage y'all, take a moment, pause, breathe, invite the God of the universe in. Open your palms because it signifies some openness. You're willing and open to let God in. And let's say this prayer together. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. My free brothers and sisters, this week may you step into your fears. You are not alone. You can feel afraid, but do not be afraid. God is going with you. May you, my brothers and sisters, experience all kinds of grace and peace along the way. And we'll see you next time.